All right, we have made it to the end, Miami Dolphins fans. Unfortunately, this is likely going to be the last position preview training camp battle video that I will have time for veterans enter Miami Dolphins training camp. Like we said in the last video, the rookies have reported. Today we are covering the safeties. As we do with these videos, before I jump into my information, we got to hear from you. What do you think about the position? Who's making it? Who's not making it? Who's on that fringe? Who would you like to see make it? Go ahead and drop your thoughts, drop your comments in the comments section. Let's carry on the conversation there. One more thing before I get started as well. Obviously, with training camp coming up, training camp videos are some of my favorite to do throughout the entire season. I know that sounds weird, but we get to a point where we're so starved for football that I just love training camp reports. I am going to be going on a family vacation, so if I miss a day or two here or there from training camp, I apologize. Trust me, it's killing me. It is killing me. I hate missing out on any videos, but particularly training camp videos. But stay subscribed. Get subscribed if you're not already. I'm going to be back with as many as possible throughout training camp practices. But let's jump into what we have got for the safeties. And this first one kind of comes with a little bit of a caveat because it's the first time, if you've watched these kind of training camp battle videos before, that I've put an asterisk next to someone's name. And we're going to talk about that for a second. But if you look at the projected starters, I don't have to spend a ton of time on Jevon Holland, but I do want to take a second just to kind of call him out and just to kind of appreciate what he's done so far, because he comes in as a rookie, essentially starts from day one, does a good job from day one, flashes. We have all these high expectations heading into year two, and he had a pretty damn good year two as well. But why it's an underrated year and why I think he's really set to take off in year three, because look at how much he was asked to do last year. He was asked as a second-year starter to basically be one of the biggest leaders in that secondary, and guys with, really, if you look at it, kind of the more of the experience with the Dolphins compared to anyone except for maybe Jevon Holland, because of all those injuries and how thin we were at cornerback and how thin we ended up getting in the secondary in general, including safety. Who was asked to step in and kind of be that leader? Well, it was Jevon Holland. But now look, you got a healthy Jevon Holland. You brought in Jalen Ramsey, who's one of the best cornerbacks in the league, but can also play kind of a variety of different positions in that secondary. You've got Kader Kohou, who kind of jumped into the scene last year and really made his presence felt. And you can rely on him in that slot corner role. You got Cam Smith, who you put a second-round draft pick in. He can play boundary. He can play corner, slot corner as well. You're really going to free up Jevon Holland to kind of just worry about himself. Let all these other studs do his thing, and then just let him be that ball hawk. Let him be that big hitter that we saw that he was capable of in that rookie year. So like I said, I've probably spent too much time talking about Holland already because he's not in any sort of camp battle. But man, I am excited for what Vic Fangio is going to be able to do to unleash this guy. Vic Fangio loves safeties, has great history with a guy like Justin Simmons in Denver, really taking him to the next level of his game. Excited for Jevon Holland. Why I put that asterisk next to Brandon Jones, though, because I would, if there was no injury history, I'm putting him in as that starter alongside with Jevon Holland at safety. But we all know he tore his ACL in week 7. We all know that, yeah, you can come back from ACLs within a year. But when you come back, you're not really yourself, in my opinion, for at least a full year. Now, he did that in week 7. So it's not like a Trill Williams injury, which was Achilles, which is actually worse. But he at least did that in preseason. So he's got a little bit more time to recover, get back to his 100% self. Whereas a guy like Brandon Jones, strong candidate to find himself potentially on that PUP list, on that short-term IR list. So while you want to pencil him as a starter, even though we don't know exactly how his role is going to be, because what does Brandon Jones thrive at? Man, playing in the box, getting after the quarterback, disguising those safety blitzes. He was awesome at that. Getting to the cornerback, finishing the quarterback, forcing fumbles, recovering fumbles. The dude was legit in a Josh Boyer-led defense. How's he going to fit in Vic Fangio? Well, hopefully we see, but there might be a little bit of a delay. So that's why we put the asterisk next to him. But if we go on to the next graphic and we look at those projected backups, if he doesn't get that nod, will enter in probably a guy like DeShon Elliott, who the Dolphins ended up signing as a free agent earlier this offseason, the 1-year deal. Had some ups and downs throughout his career, but at the end of the day, he's got experience. And you know a guy like Vic Fangio is going to like that. 42 career starts between his time with the Baltimore Ravens and Detroit Lions. Like I said, he's had some struggles. He's had some tackling issues. He's had a little bit of issues with coverage as well. But when he's been on, it has been pretty solid. So maybe a guy like Vic Fangio, get him with the right defensive coordinator, get him in the right scheme. Maybe we can have a little bit of hope there that Elliott can kind of fill in for a guy like Brandon Jones if, in fact, he is not ready to start the season. But it's an interesting position just because of kind of all the uncertainty. And then as we're going to get into here, kind of the limited experience that we have outside of Jevon Holland, because then you enter a guy like Verone McKinley, who was an undrafted free agent last season, but who stuck on the practice squad. And as we all know, ended up making his appearance on the active roster as well. Ended up playing in 10 games last year, had 16 tackles, had an interception, kind of a fan favorite. We were all happy to see when he ended up sticking and then he got called up. But do you remember him really being a liability last year? I don't really remember him being the one trailing wide receivers that were running down the field or missing tackles or anything like that. Correct me if I'm wrong. Leave that in the comments. Maybe I missed some tape on Verone McKinley, but I actually really liked what I saw out of him, I should say, last year. So if he can continue to keep this up, he's probably obviously in this battle for this backup role. And who knows with Brandon Jones, with his experience, does he take a leap forward? Can he be in the mix for some snaps as well, coming into his second year in the league? But this is where things get a little bit interesting as well, especially particular into those camp battles. Because when we talked about cornerbacks, we talked about two names that were going to get run this offseason in Dolphins camp, at cornerback and at safety. Now, I don't think a lot of this has been reported. I said that back when I did the cornerback video a week or two ago. We all know that Trill Williams is probably going to get some run, but I was telling you that my contact with the connections to the team says, you know what? Noah Igbenogany's get some run this offseason at safety. They're going to do everything possible to make this not look like a first round bust. They want him to be able to stick. It's a big ego thing, you know, with these coaches, general managers. They don't want to really admit that they were wrong. So they're going to give him opportunities. But that's where it gets interesting in regards to a camp battle, because there probably are opportunities at safety when you look at going down to the final roster. Because the Dolphins kept 4 what I consider to be like natural safeties last year. And then they also kept Elijah Campbell and Keon Crossan, who I kind of consider them more as cornerbacks, but regardless, a defensive back role, they can play safety as well. But if you've got Holland, if you've got Jones, maybe he takes up a roster spot. Maybe he doesn't if he's on PUP or IR. But you got Holland then, and you got Elliott, and you got McKinley. Maybe a guy like Trill Williams can stick because you know the team likes him and how good he was doing last offseason before that Achilles injury. If he bounces back, if he is 100%, and if he can continue to build on that momentum that he had created last year, well, man, now you got a guy that's got position versatility as well. But that's where a guy like Noah Igbenogany can kind of play in a role or a factor as well, because if they end up keeping that 4 to 6 guys potentially in this safety defensive back hybrid position, there are spots for Igbenogany, or a guy like Bennett Williams, who's pictured there as another undrafted free agent out of Oregon, or a guy like Keydron Smith, another undrafted free agent. So there's opportunities and there's battles, kind of like what I said in that tight end video. It's maybe not the sexiest battles of training camp. It's not like the ones that are going to get the attention that you're going to see leading up these last couple of days before camp. But at the end of the day, they are battles nonetheless, and that could be very, very important because we saw what happened last year to our secondary, to our depth at cornerback, to our depth at safety, and having these guys that can play multiple positions. So it's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out. But that's what I've got on the safeties. That does wrap up my pre-training camp position battle videos. Thank you to everyone that commented, that's liked the video, that has subscribed due to these videos. Completely appreciate it. And like I said, I will be back throughout training camp trying to get to every single day's recap. Like I said, I've got a family vacation that's coming up. That's probably going to take me away at least a little bit. But let's hear your thoughts on the positions and take it from there, Dolphins fans. And until next time, Fins